Hi Geometry, it's Monday, November 16th. Sorry that the video is super late today, but Cami was totally not working, so this is the fastest I get a chance to make it. Anyway, I want you to start by opening your proof reasons document that was attached to your notebook cover, or you can just go into your Google Drive and search for proof reasons. I want you to type these last two, the third angle theorem and the definition of congruent triangles. Go ahead and pause and do that now. Okay, then we're going to open up today's notes. This is the TT2 notes part 1. And today we're going to start proving triangles congruent to each other. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is identify all the corresponding parts when you're dealing with two triangles. A corresponds with D because they both have two arcs. Angle E corresponds with angle B. Angle F corresponds with angle C. So now we've got the side AB. Notice it has one tick mark. Corresponds with side DE. And when I did that, I went from one arc angle B to two arcs angle A. So I went from one arc angle E to two arc angle D. But I did it wrong, didn't I? I just said it backwards. I went from 2 to 1, so I went from 2 to 1. CA, 3 to 2, corresponds with FD, and DF, 2 to 3, corresponds with AC. So just inverses. Okay? To prove that two triangles are congruent, you must show 3 pairs of angles and 3 sets of sides. So looking at this given information, do we have enough information to show the triangles are congruent? B and D are right angles, and we know that right angles are congruent to each other, so those are good. Angle A is congruent to angle E. Side AB is congruent to side ED. Those are already marked. C is the midpoint. Well, if C is the midpoint of AE, then it means those two sides are split equally. AE bisects BD, so BD is split equally. So I currently have 3 sides marked, but I only have 2 angles marked. These 2 angles here in the C corner are not marked yet. Are they congruent? Yes, because they're vertical. So now that I have all 3 angles and all 3 sides marked, I can say that the 2 triangles are congruent. And to fill out this proof statement here, I have to make sure I match. A goes with E, B goes with D, and C goes with C. Okay? We're going to prove these 2 triangles congruent. We have all of our givens. And then we're going to go from there. So you might want to keep an eye on both of these 2 slides. All right, angle B and angle D are right angles. That was given. So what do we know about right angles? We know that they're congruent by the right angle theorem. The next, notice they're not doing all the givens right at once. They're just kind of doing step by step. So we have one angle done. Angle DCE is congruent to BCA. That was given. 2 angles done. And then for number 4, it says we're going to use the third angle theorem. So we're going to pull out the third angle that hasn't already been done. We got the 2 C's, we got the B and the D, so we're going to do angle E and angle A. So now I've got 3 angles. The third angle theorem is just if 2 other angles are already congruent, that third one has to be. It's derived from the 180 rule. If you know 2 angles of a triangle, you know the third angle because they have to add up to 180. The next given is C is the midpoint of DB. What do we know about things that are midpoints? We know that they get divided into 2 equal pieces. So we're going to have segment DC is congruent to segment CB. And that is our first segment congruence. Our last 2 given statements has 2 segments in it. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 check marks. So my triangles are now congruent. Okay, here we've got a bow tie proof. We're going to prove that triangle NPQ is the same as triangle SPR. And now I know that N and S are going to have to be congruent. P and P are going to have to be congruent, and Q and R already are congruent. Okay, so we got Q congruent to R because they were given. NPQ and SPR, those are these two angles. Why are they congruent to each other? Well, they're congruent because they're vertical. Vertical angles. Angle N is congruent to S. That one is congruent because of the third angles theorem. We have the other two. So notice I have Q, one congruency, two congruency, three congruency statements. So I know my three angles. P is the midpoint of QR. That was given. And if we know it's a midpoint, then we can split it up. So we've got QP, not QB, QP congruent to PR. That's our first segment congruence. And then we have these two segments which were given, right? Yes. So there's two there. So now we have the two triangles congruent by the definition of congruent triangles. Okay, last one. We've got this real world example. We've got a building that's full of these congruent triangles, and we're going to show that the two triangles from the top and the bottom are congruent. Okay. I don't have a step-by-step here, so we're going to actually do it. So we're going to start with the given. AB is congruent to CD, so that gets us our two sides, right there and right there. How do we get the other sides? They're already marked, and they're marked because we know that they're midpoints. So we'll list that given too. E is the, don't abbreviate, I'm going to abbreviate, the midpoint of BC and AD. Yours is going to look so much nicer because you have more time to write and you're not trying to be in front of the camera. So that's given. That tells us that E is the midpoint of both of those diagonals. So we get both AE is congruent to DE and BE is congruent to CE from that given definition of midpoint. So now I have the three sides. So now we get to do the angles. The givens don't say anything about angles, but they do have these parallels. AB is parallel to CD, and that's given. So since these are parallel, if I could kind of do it up here, if you just look at one transversal at a time, you've got alternate interior angles. So I've got angle BAC right here and right here is congruent to angle CDE because they're alternate interior. And we got alternate interior on the other side. Angle ABE is congruent to angle DCE by alternate interior. And then we have the two angles on the inside, these. So I've got all my markings inside this triangle. And you can say that those two angles are congruent by either vertical or the third angle theorem. And that is angle AEB and angle DEC. I'm out of room. Now we have all three angles, so we can say that the two triangles are congruent. So rewrite the proof statement. Triangle AEB is congruent to triangle DEC, and the reason is definition of congruent triangles. Okay, that's as far as we got in class today. If you want, you can get started on that assignment. I'm thinking we're going to have our next quiz right before Thanksgiving, but that's totally an estimate at this point in time. I've not yet graded your quizzes. I'm going to get on that today or tomorrow. If you have any questions, you know where to find me in office hours at 2:15.